My name is Marcia, and I'm 31 years old. I never imagined this moment would come, but there I was, standing in the middle of my very own apartment, holding the keys with a smile that refused to fade. After years of sacrifice, skipping vacations, eating instant noodles, and wearing the same coat 3 winters in a row, I had finally done it. I had become a homeowner. The apartment wasn't fancy. It had modest granite countertops, slightly creaky floorboards, and walls that needed a fresh coat of paint. But it was mine. Every square foot was earned through hard work, tight budgets, and long hours at the firm. I worked at Randall & Company, a corporate consulting firm where I climbed the ladder slowly, saving every penny I could. In my family, I was always the responsible one. The one who paid her bills on time, made lists, and followed them. In contrast, my younger sister, Mira, floated from boyfriend to boyfriend, living off their generosity, never staying in one place long enough to pay rent. Our mother, Linda, always made excuses for her. She's just trying to find herself, she'd say. Mira, of course, was the golden child. No matter what she did, she was adored. I, on the other hand, was dependable but overlooked. To celebrate this personal victory, I decided to host a small housewarming party. I kept it intimate, just a few close friends from work and a couple of people I'd known since school. Out of politeness, I also sent an invite to my mom and Mira, not really expecting them to come. Predictably, Mom said she was too busy with errands, and Mira didn't even respond. I shrugged it off. Their absence wasn't surprising, but it still left a small sting in my chest. The party, however, was a lovely evening. Jenna from work arrived first with a bottle of wine, complimenting the apartment with wide eyes. Daniel and Eva, my old friends from college, brought a potted plant and a cheese platter. Laughter echoed through the space, and for the first time, the apartment felt like home. Daniel raised a toast to hard work and perseverance paying off, and as everyone clinked their glasses, I felt tears prick my eyes. Not because I was sad, but because I was proud. Despite the absence of family, my chosen family was there, and that meant everything. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon, the kind where I wore my oldest sweatpants and moved through the apartment with lazy contentment. Sunlight filtered in through the windows, and I was humming to myself while tidying up the kitchen when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, there stood Linda and Mira, my mother and sister, both wearing their signature expressions, critical and dramatic. Linda barged in without so much as a hello, her designer purse swinging against her side. Mira followed behind her, wearing oversized sunglasses indoors like she was trying out for a reality show. I hadn't invited them. Their sudden arrival threw me off balance, but I forced a polite smile and offered to make tea. As I set out 3 mismatched mugs, I could feel the tension curling in the air. Linda began critiquing my kitchen setup. These shelves are so impractical, while Mira strolled around inspecting the apartment like a realtor judging a fixer-upper. She finally settled on the couch and took off her sunglasses, revealing a look that usually meant she was about to ask for something. "This is actually a nice place, Marcia," she said, the compliment sounding more like a setup than sincerity. I stayed quiet, waiting. Sure enough, as I poured the tea, Mira sighed dramatically. "So, I broke up with Matthew," she began, tracing her finger along the rim of her mug. "Can you believe he asked me to start paying rent after 8 months?" she said, laughing like it was the most ridiculous thing in the world. I pressed my lips together, biting back the urge to respond. Mira leaned in. "Anyway, I need a place to stay for a little while. Just until I find a job and get back on my feet. A few months, max." The mug I was holding nearly slipped from my hands. "Stay here?" I asked, steadying my voice. "Mira, I just moved in. I need space. I have a plan." Before I could finish, Linda's voice cut in sharply. "Marcia, how can you be so selfish? Your sister has nowhere to go. You're in this big apartment all by yourself." I turned to her, trying to stay calm. "Mom, she can stay with you. Your house is big enough." Mira groaned. "Please. Have you seen Mom's place? It's like a retirement home. I need to be somewhere I can network and meet people." Linda nodded in agreement. Honestly, Marcia, after all we've done for you, this is how you repay us? You've always been cold. Her words hit like tiny needles, each one laced with guilt and accusation. Your father would be so disappointed in you, she added quietly, twisting the knife. I felt cornered. I stared at my tea, at the apartment I'd worked so hard for, and the two women who always managed to make me feel like the bad guy. Finally, I exhaled slowly and said, Fine. For months. That's it. Myra's tears dried up instantly. Thank you. I swear I'll be out before you know it. I held up a hand. You need to find a job, save money, and leave in 4 months. I mean it. Of course, she gushed, throwing her arms around me. I didn't hug her back. Linda sat back with a satisfied smile, like she had just won a silent battle I never agreed to fight. The very next evening, Mira showed up at my door like a moving hurricane. She had 3 oversized suitcases, several shopping bags, and not a trace of humility. Surprise. I made it, she chirped, rolling her luggage into the apartment before I could say a word. She looked around, twirled once, then walked straight to my bedroom door. Ooh, this one's perfect. The view is amazing. That's my room, I said firmly. You'll be staying in the guest room, or you can go back to Mom's. Mira pouted, but didn't argue. She dragged her things into the smaller room, the disappointment written all over her slouched shoulders. I wanted to start off on a civil note, so I decided to make pasta for dinner. Maybe, I thought, a warm meal would soften the awkwardness. While she unpacked, I plated 2 servings and called her to the table. Once we were seated, I used the opportunity to set boundaries. Look, if we're going to live together, we need to be clear on a few things, I began. Mira nodded, twirling her spaghetti with practiced disinterest. First, no loud noise, especially late at night. I wake up early, and these walls are thin. Fine, she mumbled with a mouthful of food. This is really good, by the way. Second, utilities. No long showers, and turn off lights when you leave the room. Electricity isn't free. I'm not a kid, Marcia, she snapped. I know how to flip a switch. Ignoring the irritation in her tone, I continued, and lastly, no guests without checking with me first. This is still my apartment, and I have a right to know who's coming and going. To my surprise, Mira looked up and said, I get it. I know I haven't been the most reliable person in the past, but I'm serious this time. I want to do better. I'm going to find a job, save up, and leave in 4 months, like I promised. Her words caught me off guard. She sounded sincere, almost determined. For a fleeting moment, I believed her. The first week actually went better than I expected. I left early each morning for work, and when I returned, the apartment was relatively tidy. Mira cooked dinner a few times, nothing fancy but edible. One night, she made a surprisingly tasty chicken stir-fry. As we sat down, I asked, How was the interview today? She perked up. Good. It was a marketing firm downtown. They said they'd call me next week. Her smile looked genuine. I let myself breathe. Maybe, just maybe, she had turned a corner. The illusion of progress didn't last long. By the 3rd week, I started noticing the little things first. Dirty dishes left in the sink, lights left on in empty rooms, makeup stains on my towels. The home-cooked meals became less frequent, replaced by greasy takeout containers scattered on the kitchen counter. Mira was back to lounging on the couch in her pajamas, her eyes glued to her phone, laughing at Instagram reels while the vacuum sat untouched in the corner. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day at work, I came home to find her exactly where I had left her that morning, lying on the couch, same crumpled clothes, her hair in a messy bun, and the smell of cold fries in the air. Takeout wrappers were everywhere, and the TV was blaring some reality show. I stepped into the kitchen and sighed. The sink was overflowing, and not a single clean spoon remained. Trying to remain calm, I said, Hey, we agreed to share responsibilities. She didn't even look up. Ugh, I'm just so tired of cleaning and cooking. It's boring. And job hunting? Any luck today? I asked, my tone measured. She shrugged. Went to one place. They wanted 6 years of experience for an entry-level role. Ridiculous. Did you apply anyway?
She scoffed.
Why would I waste my time? I'm not desperate. That night, I made dinner in silence. She ate without offering to help or clean up afterward. By the end of the week, it was clear. Mira had no intention of finding a job or contributing to the house. Her promises had been just that, promises, empty and fading fast. Our neighbors began complaining. I overheard one of them telling another in the hallway, that apartment used to be quiet. Now it's like a dorm room. I felt a flush of embarrassment. One morning, as I was getting ready for work, I heard Mira on the phone in the next room. Yeah, I'm totally hungover, she said, laughing. My sister's still around. Total buzzkill, always serious. I stood frozen, toothbrush in hand, the resentment building. That night, she came home at 3 a.m., reeking of alcohol and cigarettes. She stumbled into the apartment, banging the door into the wall, waking me with her noise. Sleep became a rare luxury. The next afternoon, she dragged herself out of bed around noon and flopped onto the couch. Marcia, can you run to the pharmacy for me? I feel like death. I need those hangover pills with the electrolytes. I stared at her, then said, There's water and Advil in the kitchen. She groaned and mumbled, You're the worst. A decent sister would have helped. That night, I finally called Linda. Mom, I said, trying not to sound desperate. You need to talk to her. She's not job hunting. She's partying all night, sleeping all day. But as expected, Linda dismissed it. Oh, Marcia, you exaggerate everything. She's trying to find her way. You're always so uptight. Let her be. The words rang in my ears. Let her be. Of course. Because Mira could do no wrong. The situation worsened over the next couple of weeks. Myra's room had turned into a disaster zone. Clothes were strewn everywhere, dirty dishes hid beneath piles of laundry, and empty wine bottles clinked under the bed. I tried to clean once and found a cup of old coffee with mold growing on top. The apartment that I had once called my sanctuary now felt like a frat house spiraling into chaos. One Thursday night, I came home to find the hallway lights dimmed and the smell of cheap cologne mixed with alcohol hanging in the air. As I reached the door, I heard laughter, Myra's shrill giggles and a deeper male voice that I didn't recognize. I opened the door to find her standing just inside the entryway, arm in arm with a man I had never seen before. Marcia, she squealed, eyes glassy. This is Tyler. Isn't he hot? Tyler, tall with a leather jacket despite the summer heat, gave me a lazy once-over and barely nodded. Then he leaned in, nuzzling her neck as they giggled like teenagers. My jaw clenched. What is he doing here? I asked, trying to keep my voice even. Without missing a beat, Mira replied, He's staying the night. Actually, maybe a few nights. His roommate kicked him out, can you believe it? No, I said sharply. Absolutely not.
Mira, we talked about this.
No guests, without checking with me first. Oh, come on, she groaned. We're planning a rooftop party with some friends tonight. It's no big deal. Tyler chimed in with a smirk. Yeah, we just need like $150 for drinks and snacks. You can spare it, right? I blinked, stunned. You want me to pay for your party? It's just $150, Mira snapped. You live in this nice apartment and you can't help your own sister have a little fun? God, you're disgusting. Tyler laughed. Told you she was uptight. That was it. The dam broke. My hands trembled as I stepped forward. Get out. Both of you. Right now. You can't kick me out. Mira shouted. I live here. No, you don't, I said coldly. You were supposed to stay here temporarily. You promised you'd look for a job, save money, act like an adult. But instead, you turned my home into a circus. I stormed into her room and started yanking her suitcases out of the closet, dragging them into the hallway. Pack. Now. Mira stood frozen for a second, then flew into a frenzy, throwing clothes into her bags haphazardly.
Fine. Keep your stupid apartment.
You're a horrible sister. I hate you. You already said that, I replied flatly. Tyler followed behind, looking bored, while Mira slammed her suitcases closed and stomped toward the door. You'll regret this, she shouted. The door slammed so hard it rattled the picture frames on the wall. I stood there in silence, heart pounding, but feeling an odd sense of relief. 45 minutes later, my phone rang. I didn't even have to look to know it was Linda. "How dare you throw your sister out in the middle of the night?" she screeched. "She brought a stranger into my home and demanded money for a party," I said calmly. "She could have been hurt out there." Linda shrieked. "What kind of daughter are you?" I hung up without another word, then turned off my phone. The silence afterward was glorious. In the days that followed, the silence in my apartment was nearly surreal. It was the kind of quiet that had weight to it, cleansing, calming, like the sound of breathing after holding it too long underwater. I began the process of reclaiming my space, one room at a time. Myra's room was the first. I opened the windows to let in fresh air and sunlight, then rolled up my sleeves and got to work. What I found was enough to make me gag. Moldy dishes under the bed. A half-eaten sandwich fused to the nightstand. Lipstick smeared on the wall like graffiti. There were wine stains on the carpet and sticky patches on every surface. The place looked like it had hosted a series of bad decisions. It took me 2 days, 5 garbage bags, and a professional carpet cleaner to erase the wreckage. As I vacuumed for the 3rd time, I called a locksmith and had the locks changed. The man didn't ask any questions, just gave me a knowing nod as he installed a new deadbolt. With the new keys in hand, I felt lighter. Not just because I had kicked someone out of my home, but because I had kicked out years of emotional manipulation and guilt. I finally had my space back, not just physically, but emotionally. My birthday was approaching, and, for the first time in years, I was actually looking forward to it. No guilt, no drama, no pretenses. I sent out invitations to a small group, my closest colleagues from work like Jenna and old friends like Daniel and Eva. I also invited a few cousins from my dad's side who had always been kind to me and stayed away from the drama that Linda and Mira seemed to create wherever they went. Notably absent from the guest list were Linda and Mira. The party was set for a Saturday evening. My apartment sparkled, fresh flowers on the coffee table, fairy lights gently illuminating the living room. Jenna brought her signature chocolate cake, Daniel brought a bottle of my favorite wine, and Sophie, my cousin, gifted me a beautiful potted plant with a card that read, "For your reclaimed space and spirit." We laughed, told stories, played music, and toasted to a new chapter in my life. For a while, it felt like the past had been buried beneath the joy of the present. But just as I was about to open gifts, the doorbell rang. A single, sharp chime. My heart sank. I opened the door, and there she was, Linda, dressed to the nines and holding a face full of fury. She didn't say hello. She didn't ask to come in. She walked past me into the living room, commanding the attention of every guest. "I can't believe all of you are here celebrating with her," she announced, arms spread wide. After she heartlessly threw her sister out in the middle of the night. The room fell silent. All smiles vanished. Glasses stopped clinking. "Mom, this isn't the time," I said quietly, stepping forward. "When is the time?" she snapped. "When do we talk about your cruelty? Your selfishness? Your sister is devastated, and you're here popping champagne." "She brought a stranger into my house," I said firmly, keeping my voice low. "She disrespected every boundary I set." Linda's voice rose louder. "You've always been cold. Always thought you were better than us. And now you sit here in your fancy little apartment pretending like you didn't betray your own family." Something in me cracked. "Maybe if you had actually parented Mira instead of babying her," I said, "she wouldn't be such a disaster." Linda's eyes widened, and before I could step back, she stormed toward the dessert table, picked up the birthday cake Jenna had brought, and with both hands, smashed it on my head. Gasps erupted from around the room. I stood frozen, stunned. Thick chocolate and frosting dripped down my hair and onto my dress. The room was completely silent, and for a moment, all I could hear was the sound of the frosting sliding down my cheek. "You ungrateful wretch," Linda hissed. Then she stormed out the door, slamming it shut behind her with such force that the candles on the side table shook. I stood still for several seconds, blinking, my hands trembling. Then Sophie stepped forward and wrapped her arms around me. One by one, the others followed, offering tissues, hugs, and words of comfort. Tears burned in my eyes, not because of pain, but because in that moment, surrounded by true friends, I finally realized something. I didn't need Linda's love anymore. I didn't need her approval. And I certainly didn't need her in my life. The party didn't really recover after that. Though my friends tried their best to lift the mood with humor and comforting words, the energy had shifted. The birthday cake, once the centerpiece of the celebration, now lay shattered in frosting-covered ruins across my hardwood floor and in my hair. Guests politely stayed a while longer, offered hugs, and helped me clean up, but soon, one by one, they began to leave. By 10, the apartment was quiet again, save for the hum of the fridge and the soft rustling of paper towels as Sophie wiped the last smudge of icing from the floor. She turned to me with sad eyes. "I'm sorry, Marcia. I never thought she'd go that far." I offered her a tired smile. "It's not your fault. I should have known better than to let her in." Sophie stayed the night, sleeping on the couch while I washed my hair 3 times and stood in front of the mirror, wondering how I had let myself believe that Linda could ever change. The next morning, she left me with a warm hug and a promise to check in soon. Over the next few weeks, I buried myself in work and personal growth. I redecorated the apartment, replacing anything that reminded me of chaos. I bought a new throw rug, donated Myra's leftover belongings, and burned the candle that had sat untouched for months. I started attending yoga twice a week and spent my mornings reading instead of scrolling through my phone. There were no loud arguments, no slammed doors, no lingering smell of cigarette smoke. My home felt like mine again, safe, calm, mine. Then 3 weeks later, Sophie called. She didn't even say hello. "You're not going to believe this," she began. "Mira and Tyler, they've moved into your mom's house." I didn't even flinch. "Of course they have." Sophie hesitated. "It's gotten bad. I mean, really bad. Parties every night. Loud music. Neighbors have complained. Tyler's taken over the guest room and started inviting his friends over like it's some bachelor pad. And last night—"
She paused.
"What happened?" I asked, already knowing I wouldn't like the answer. "Last night, Mira and Linda got into a huge fight. Your mom tried to stop one of the parties and Mira, she hit her, Marcia. She actually slapped her." I went quiet. Sophie continued, "And that's not all. Tyler and Mira have taken over the whole house. They've started selling your mom's furniture online. Some neighbors say she's barely seen in her own home anymore. It's like she's their prisoner." The words didn't hurt the way I thought they would. In fact, they barely moved me. I remembered the cake sliding down my forehead. I remembered Linda's words, "Ungrateful wretch," ringing through a room full of stunned guests. I remembered all the times she chose Mira over me, no matter how obvious Myra's behavior had been. A week later, my phone lit up with a call from Linda. I stared at the screen for a full minute before answering. Her voice was thin, shaky, not angry, just tired. "Marcia," she said softly, "please don't hang up. I need you to listen." I said nothing. I should have believed you. You were right about everything. Mira and Tyler, they've taken over everything. I can't even go into my own kitchen without being insulted. They have parties at all hours. Last night, she punched me in the arm. She told me I'm worthless. And Tyler just stood there and laughed. Today I found out they sold the living room set. My living room. They're talking about selling the house now. Her voice cracked. "I don't know what to do anymore. Please, I need your help." I closed my eyes. The pain, the betrayal, the chaos, it all came back for a fleeting second. Then I exhaled. "No," I said calmly. "You made your choice. You picked Mira. You let her live with you. You enabled her, protected her, believed her over me. And now you're living with the consequences." "Marcia, please. I'm not your solution," I said, my voice quiet but steady. "Your golden daughter is your problem now." I ended the call. And this time, I blocked her number. Blocking Linda's number didn't bring immediate satisfaction. It brought silence, a heavy, echoing kind that made me question if I'd done the right thing. But the longer the days stretched without her voice in my ear, the stronger I felt. The truth was, I had spent years aching for a relationship with a mother who refused to see me. I had hoped that maybe if I worked hard enough, stayed calm enough, succeeded enough, she would finally love me the way she loved Mira. But love, I learned, isn't something you earn through suffering. It's something that should be given freely, and it never was. As updates trickled in through Sophie, I learned that Linda eventually moved in temporarily with an old friend after Mira and Tyler sold the house without even consulting her. They used the proceeds to fund a short-lived business venture that collapsed within weeks. Tyler eventually disappeared, and Mira was left circling her next opportunity, as she always did. I didn't feel the need to follow what happened next. I had made my decision. My life, finally, was mine. Mornings became my favorite time of day. I'd wake up to the soft light of sunrise bleeding through sheer curtains, brew coffee, and sit in silence. No yelling, no messes, no tension vibrating in the walls. I started a small weekend blog about home organization and budgeting, and, to my surprise, it gained a steady following. People appreciated the way I wrote with quiet strength and clarity, and slowly, something that began as therapy turned into a side hustle. Sometimes, when I passed a family in the park or saw siblings laughing together in a cafe, a small pang would rise in my chest. I would wonder, briefly, what life could have been if my mother had been different, if Mira had been different, if we had ever been a real family.
But the pain didn't last long.
Because I had found something better than false hope. I had found peace. I still kept in touch with Jenna, Daniel, Eva, and Sophie. On quiet weekends, we'd gather at my place for movie nights or lazy brunches, filling the rooms with the kind of joy that didn't need to be loud or flashy. It just needed to be real. One evening, as we sat drinking wine and eating takeout on my balcony, Jenna looked at me and said, "You know, Marcia, this place that feels like you."
And it did.
Every pillow, every framed quote, every quiet corner of that apartment was built on the ashes of old wounds and the solid foundation of new strength. I had stopped chasing the people who hurt me. I had let go of the ones who never truly saw me. And, in their place, I had chosen myself. No more guilt. No more begging to be heard. No more shrinking to keep others comfortable. Just Marcia, finally whole, finally free. If you found this story powerful or relatable, don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional, impactful stories. Your support truly means a lot. Until the next story, take care and stay strong.